Hey everyone, it's Riley again. Today we are going to talk about inventory management. Now, yesterday we talked about handling times, cancel strikes. Let's see, what else was it? Those are the two main things that this will help you with. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about inventory management and how important it is if you're going to structure your business and you're going to scale your eBay business. Now, this applies to any e-commerce business that you create. It doesn't matter what you're selling, if you don't have a good inventory management system, you can only go so far. Uh, that was one of our main problems as we first started out. I talked in the very first chapter about how we leased a warehouse that was 3,000 square feet. The reason we did that is because we had everything piled into a bunch of storage units, our basement and our garage, and we really didn't know everything we had. We had so much stuff we couldn't organize it. It wasn't effective. So we had to employ a different strategy. Now, the last chapter or the last video of this segment that I'm going to do is all about warehousing and space and and upgrading where you're currently running your business. But this is going to focus solely on managing your inventory. One of the worst things you can do for your eBay business is have lower handling times and cancel strikes. Oh, and shipping times. That's what it was. Um, Meaning that if you lose an item and it takes you a couple of days to find it, and then you find it, but you're a day late getting it in the mail. That happened to us a couple times in the very beginning. And I read in these Facebook groups and these forums and stuff about it happening to other sellers as well. So I'm going to lay out some strategies of what you can do, what you can implement into your eBay business, whether you're running it out of your garage, a storage unit, a shed in your backyard, your basement, wherever you're running it, so that you can avoid all of these things, because these all lower your reputation with eBay, right? They drive you down so that eBay doesn't trust you as much to take care of their customers, because that's really what we're doing with eBay is we're borrowing their platform, we're borrowing their customers, and we're providing them with a product. So if eBay doesn't trust us anymore, then they're not going to let us go sell to as many customers. Okay, so one of the first things is, how are you keeping track of your inventory? Um, it's really easy when you have a great inventory system. Why aren't you keeping better track of your inventory? Why aren't you doing it as you buy it? Why all of these things, right? Well, well, that's easy when you're looking from the outside in and you're not caught up in it. If you're like us, you were running things kind of it was a team for us. We had both of us, but we were a one-man show, right? We were doing a lot of the stuff ourselves. Within the first 60 days, 30 days, we brought Clarissa's mom on as a critical part of our business to help us with cleaning inventory, prepping inventory, going through stuff. We couldn't have done it without her. We needed that extra help to get our inventory sorted. She was amazing. Um, and that freed us up a little bit so we could work on it. Now, one of the things that we implemented fairly early, because we started seeing this issue of how do we keep track of everything, right? And we used eBay's inventory system, but something that we started using early on was Square for Retail. And when you're starting out and you're working on scaling up, Square for Retail has a pretty decent system, and it's free, right? It's well, mostly free. You can upgrade. It has several packages. You can process all your wages through it. There's a lot to Square, but typically you can get into it for free. It doesn't cost you anything. The other thing that's nice about it is it integrates really well with a website. So in the last video, I talked about the importance of setting up your own website so you can sell from your own website. Um, this is what we used, and it was a lifesaver because we were also able to start accepting credit cards other than just Venmo, right? We were able to have people come into our shop on the weekends when we do our garage sales. They could slide their credit card. It was no big deal. We didn't have to worry about Venmo. We didn't have to worry about cash. Um, and it kind of upped our game. It helped us get a lot more organized. And then what we would do is as we were inventorying stuff, we had a specific category in our Square system that was for eBay. And anything that immediately went onto eBay, like we knew that we were going to get top dollar off of eBay, we flagged it in that category and we listed it on eBay. This was a really big step for us, and it really helped us to really keep track of everything we had, even if it was not on eBay or not. And then the other nice thing about Square for Retail is because we were putting these things into our inventory system there, it was really easy to keep track of where they were. Now, one of the things that you're going to run into is how are you organizing your items? One of the worst feelings that you're ever going to feel is when something sells and you go to get it and you can't find it. That is so frustrating. We had that happen really early on, and luckily we were able to implement a system into our business by this point, but we had these BMW headlight bulbs. Um, our guy that worked our warehouse and was doing our inventory, he went through and did an inventory of all of our eBay inventory and realized that he didn't have these BMW headlight bulbs. We looked for them. We never found them. You know, he found that we were missing those in our second year, and by the time we closed down our warehouse and closed down our retail store, we still hadn't found those headlight bulbs. Um, no idea where they went, but we know when we lost them, and it was when we transitioned from our 3,000 square foot space over to our 5,000 square foot warehousing space. Somewhere in there, they got misplaced. Um, Now, how this can help you, what I'm about to share with you, is when you come up with an inventory system that makes sure your items are where they're supposed to be at all times, it helps you stay more organized. So you're going to cut down your handling times, you're going to cut down your canceling strikes for being out of inventory, and you're going to get cut down on your shipping, late shipment. And that is on eBay when you're creating a listing, and even after your listing, when you're in viewing your listing, there is a spot for a custom SKU. Okay. Now, for the first year we did our business, we never used this. We didn't use it not one time. We didn't even understand what it was for. We were just happy to be selling and making money, right? But as our inventory grew, as we passed like the 400 listing point, it got really, really difficult to keep track of where everything was. We tried to be organized. We had several shelves set up, had things organized on it, but we would still misplace things. It was still a nightmare to find the right item to go out, and it really it kind of bottlenecked our shipping, right? It bottlenecked our shipping and our packaging because when we would go through our stuff, we're like, oh, we know we set it on this shelf somewhere, let's try to find it. And then it would take two or three of us to try to find it. And typically it took us pulling Clarissa off of what she was doing to come in and look at it. You know, the mom eyes, she was able to find things really, really quickly that we were just overlooking. So we implemented custom SKUs, and the custom SKUs is a really, really nice tool that eBay gives you. Once you make your listing, before you put it on a shelf, you can go in and you can designate a custom SKU. Now, ours would look something like this. We had these two massive rows of shelving. These were 6 foot tall shelves, 24 inches deep, and I think they were 6 foot long. And we had two rows of them that ran the entire our warehouse. I think we had 18 on one side and 18 on the other side, or 18 and 14, or something like that. Um, and how we designated it is we would take one shelf and we would say, this is shelf A. So we would have shelf A, and then it would have 6 racks on that shelf. So shelf A, let me clear this up. Um, we have shelf A, and then we would do rack 1. Okay. So in our custom SKUs, it would look something like this. We would say A1 dash or something similar to that. And then we would have the, if there was a bin on that rack, say we had a storage tote, if it had a storage tote, we would put B3. So we know that, bin 3 is on shelf A1, and it really reduced significantly our handling times, our strikes, our getting packages out. So that was a part of it. The other part of it is it saved us time. Um, One of the most terrifying things for us is we were starting to sell more and more on eBay. When we got to the point where we were selling 12 packages a day, 15 packages, 20 packages a day, I started getting really, really overwhelmed because I was concerned we weren't going to be able to keep up with it. I knew that our process wasn't the best because it would take me, if we had a really good day on eBay, it was exciting, but there was this dread of how am I going to get all of the shipping done in time? How am I going to find all of the items? We know that it's in this room. We know they're on these shelves, but how am I going to pull this the most effectively? This really, using the custom SKUs and labeling our shelves and labeling our bins, was one of the absolute best things we ever did for our business. It helped us keep really, really organized. Now, the other thing I would highly, highly recommend when it comes to where you are warehousing your inventory, no one should have access to that inventory. And when I say no one, we used to let people walk through our inventory sometimes, not just anybody, but we had favorite customers. So we would let them come in and kind of browse around. And then we had some other issues where someone who was really close to us that we just didn't even think it was going to be a problem kept moving items from shelf to shelf. They weren't doing it to be mean, or they weren't doing it to cause problems for us. They didn't even know. They just didn't understand our inventory system. Other times we had our own kids pick items up and take it out of eBay and set it down somewhere. So what you really have to do is you have to get really, really picky about who is allowed around your inventory. So we're going to say access, right? Um, Restrict your access to where your currently listed items are. It's not that you're being mean or anything like that. It's just business. You need to protect this stuff so that when it sells, you can get it out as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Um, Now, that worked really well for us. And depending on your space that you're operating out of now, and we're going to talk about warehousing and space later on, and how, typically, yes, you could create a 6-figure business on eBay with a smaller space, but you're just going to have to employ some different strategies. I would recommend that you have enough room without increasing your overhead to the point that it's killing your business. Overhead can very quickly sink any business. If you get your overhead too high, then you may not recover from it. Um, Now, one of the next things with this is eBay. They have, when you get in the back end, eBay actually has a really, really good inventory system. I like it a lot. We used Square, which was great. We used um, eBay's inventory system, which was great. But I'm going to tell you right now that they are not without their flaws. We've had multiple times through our selling career where we will sell something and it was the last one we have, and then 3 weeks later or 2 weeks later we sell the exact same thing again, but we were out. And don't ask me why that happens. I really do believe that it comes back down to the cell phone app. That's the only correlation we found. Um, but that brings up the last point. Once you have a really great inventory system, it only works as well as it's accurate, right? So what we started doing is we tried doing it longer. We tried doing 3 months. We tried doing 6 months. It just didn't work. we had a monthly inventory day. So what we would do is we would designate 1 to 2 days each month, and it was for inventory. And it was really easy. All we did is we went through and we printed off our current listings on eBay. Really easy to do, especially if you have your eBay store up. We'd print off our eBay store, put it on a clipboard with a pen and paper, with a pen, and we would go through that paper copy and we would make adjustments. Um, we'd count items. You know, we were supposed to have 16 of this item in stock. Well, there's only 14. So we need to adjust that on eBay to make sure it reflects right. This item here, um, it's not there. So we need to immediately get that off of eBay. This item here, well, it's supposed to be on eBay. It was obviously put on eBay at one point, but now it's not anymore. So we need to pull it and get it relisted. That's the kind of things that it solved. And we found that this needs to be done, especially if you are operating at a higher scale and you're trying to move forward and sell more stuff. This needs to be done once a month, at the minimum. Anything, even bi-weekly would be good, especially if you have the people and you have downtime every now and then. Even bi-weekly would work. Once a week is definitely too much. It's just too much to pay somebody to go through and do your inventory and keep track of your inventory that way. But 1 to 2 days each month, either yourself or having somebody else do it. We would have our packaging guy do it a lot. We also had at the time we had 2 people helping us in our retail store. So sometimes if the retail store is a little slow, we'd pull that one of them over, and they would help us do our inventory. It's really simple. And here's the thing. Um, I know you've probably been in Walmart or Smith's or any of your big retail stores, and you're going to see people going through and they're going to be doing inventory and checking their inventory system against what's actually on the shelves. Every retailer, whether they're online or offline, has to do it. It's just a part of business. It's a part of being in business. And you're a business now, right? And you got to treat it like a business. So you've got to implement what they're doing into your business to make sure that your business is going right. If Walmart has chicken noodle soup and it shows in their inventory that they have 100 cans left, but for some reason there's a glitch in the system and they've actually only got 2 cans left, they need to know that. They need to be doing that inventory so that they can order more chicken noodle soup so that people can have chicken noodle soup when they don't feel good. And it's the same with you. If you're going through this strategy of um, scaling your business up, you have got to keep a really good handle on your inventory systems. Now, does it mean that you have to do it? Not at all. Like I said, we would have our guy that helped us package, our warehouse guy, and we'd have one of our retailer staff, if it was slow, come over and help. And there were some times that I did it myself. Um, it just, you use it and you figure that out that's best going to serve you and your business. When you scale, putting all of this stuff in and pushing this into your business, it can feel overwhelming. And I talked a little bit about it in chapter 1. What worked to get you to 10,000 every 90 days or 20,000 every 90 days, it's probably not going to work to get you farther faster, right? I'm part of several Facebook groups, and we see all the time where people are talking about how, how do I make more money faster? I got to make more money. You got to change the way you're doing, because if if you have a poor inventory setup, it's going to be harder and it's going to take longer for you to reach this than it is if you start managing your inventory. The faster you start managing it, the better. Now, it's time consuming. And one of the things you're going to have to come up with, I talked about it in the first video, is outsourcing or letting go of the things that you have to feel like you have to do yourself. It's a mentality thing, right? Especially my generation, I think we really grew up. If you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. And to a point, that's right. But if you want to make money and you want to make more money, then you get other people to do the things that you don't have time for or shouldn't be doing to grow your business. This is one of those things where I would highly encourage you to figure out how you can either bring someone in part-time that this is what they're doing, right? They're all they're doing is checking your inventory. Maybe it's an employee you already have or a family member that you have. Whatever it is, that's one of the things to do. Um, Square for retail, it's really nice because you can use that, especially tying it into your website. You can use it for selling, but then you can also use it when you're selling on Facebook Marketplace. If you're selling big items, you can use that and it takes it right out of your inventory system. There's no question of where did I put that? Where did it go? Tracks all your numbers, and it's really easy to keep track of your cost of goods, your shipping, all that stuff. It has a really good management tool and it ties over to QuickBooks really simply. So it is very nice. And then if you do like, yard sales, flea markets, that type of stuff, it's really easy because you can pull your inventory, you can categorize it. When you're sorting things, you can say, oh, this would be really good at the flea market, so we're going to put this in the flea market pile. It goes in the flea market pile or category on Square. We already have our pricing set. Now we can just go to the flea market. We pull out our Square reader on our phone. It's already done, right? So it makes it really, really nice. It really does. Once you start implementing your inventory management system, it's really, really nice. Now, Shopify is another one that you can do it with, and there are a couple others. We chose Square just because it was really low cost, and we didn't have a huge overhead we could use um, to get into it. So consider this, just recapping everything really quick. Use eBay's inventory system, use Square for retail. Custom SKUs are really, really important. Making sure your inventory is kept organized, sorted, right where it's supposed to be, and withholding access from people who shouldn't be in it, or even your own kids. Love our kids, but I mean, even our big son, who's in his 20s now, we had a hard time a lot of time letting him go in there because he was constantly picking stuff up that he thought was cool and moving it. All the kids did it. I even did it a few times. I'd pick something up. I'm like, when did this get on eBay? And and then I'd set it down. Then I'd have to remember, oh, it's got to go back on the shelf. So access is a big one. Um, and then take 1 or 2 days each month and completely go through your inventory, top to bottom, every item. If it takes one or two people to do it. There's stores out there. I get it. They have like 3,000 items in their stores. That's okay. You still got to do it, because if you don't, then you're going to run into missing items, cancel strikes, handling times, shipping times, those things right there. And we don't want you to get there. So when you're wanting to scale your business, this is something you're going to want to do. Now, the earlier you implement an inventory management system into your eBay business, the better off you're going to be, because when we started it fairly early, but we weren't very good at it. And it took us probably 8 or 9 months before we really started getting an idea of what we really needed. We didn't do this. We didn't go through and do inventory for probably the first year. And then we started having issues with having to cancel items or having to go. We learned really early on that you just don't cancel stuff. And so what would happen is we would have to go out and we'd have to find a brand new item, which would cost us money to ship it out, because we'd have to purchase it from Walmart or Target or Best Buy. And so that's what prompted us to start doing inventory. And 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 it works. It is a system that works. So this is your inventory management. I don't think I've forgotten anything. Play around with the SKU in your own business and see how you can do it for the space that you're currently in, or if you're looking at a bigger space, how you're going to lay it out in a bigger space. Anyway, hopefully that helps a lot. If you have questions, if I've forgotten something or I haven't covered something that you had questions on or you really wanted to know more about, please comment on the video. We'll answer the comment as quickly as we can. Thank you, guys.